Hi, welcome to Family Wealth Money Partners. I'm Brian Ramsey, and this week we're continuing our series around questions that you should be asking your financial advisor or questions that you might consider asking if you are interviewing a new advisor. Now, this week's question is really geared towards maybe if you're interviewing a new advisor or if you've never worked with an advisor and you're sort of going to see one for the first time. This is a great question to ask, and that is, what would a portfolio look like that you would put together for me? So really you're asking for an investment proposal. Now we're going to break this into two different segments. Number one, we're going to talk about, what questions you need to ask or what criteria you should ask to see. And then number two, we're going to talk about maybe a word of caution. So number one, when you're at the point where you're ready to move forward with an advisor and you're asking for an investment proposal, you're going to want to give him some criteria. Meaning you might, what we always recommend is you want to see an existing portfolio of an existing client that you've managed or worked with for at least 5 years. Now, why would you ask that? Number one, you're going to want to see what the current holdings are. Lots of reasons why you'd want to see that. You want to see if they use mutual funds or exchange traded funds or individual securities. And you just want to get an idea of what an existing portfolio might look like. Number two, you're going to want to ask to see historical returns and of at least 5 years. You can ask for longer, but at least 5 years. And the reason I suggest that is because the existing portfolio that they're going to show you, those holdings have more than likely changed over the last 5 years. Now that's the existing holdings, but sometimes mutual funds get traded out or exchange traded funds get changed, or individual securities, you can buy and sell stocks. So you're just going to want to make sure that you ask for two different pieces of information. Number one, what does an existing portfolio look like? So what are the holdings that you own? And then number two, what has the historical performance been over the last 5 years? Now, we all know the old saying, historical performance is no indication of future performance, but you're going to want to make sure that you see how that portfolio has done over a number of years. That's just really important to know, but looking at the holdings that you own are not going to tell you much because those particular holdings may not have been the same holdings over the last 5 years. So again, you just want to ask to see both. Here's a word of caution, and that is if you're working with an advisor and you say, hey, I want to see an existing portfolio from an existing client that you worked with for at least 5 years, and they're not willing to give you that information, I'd be a little cautious. And they may say, well, it's client confidentiality reasons, I can't do that. And that's simply not the case. There's lots of ways to show an existing portfolio of an existing client and remove all the client information. That's very easy to do. And it's also easy to show performance information and again, remove the client or any confidential information. That's super easy to do. We do it all the time. So that's if you have an advisor that says that, hey, I can't do that for client confidentiality reasons, I probably would steer clear. Number two, if you have an advisor that says, well, hey, I can't show you that information, but here's an existing portfolio, be very, very cautious. I will tell you, I couldn't count the number of times I've seen this in my 15 plus years of being in this business, is we'll see a proposal that comes to our desk, and sure enough, we go back and look to see, do a scan of those particular mutual funds. And what advisors will have a tendency to do is they will run a scan of a mutual fund to find the best performing fund in that asset class for that particular year, and they'll show that in an investment portfolio. Has nothing to do with how they actually run existing portfolios, or maybe it has nothing to do with an existing client portfolio, but really what they've done is they just searched for the best performing mutual fund and they lumped it all together to make the performance look awesome so that you'll be so impressed that you become a client. So again, that's a word of caution. I have seen that over and over again. Just make sure that when you're interviewing an advisor or you're first now, you've been working with an advisor and you're going to go interview a new advisor, just make sure you're asking the question, what does my portfolio look like? How would you put together a portfolio? And ask them for the criteria of, I want to see an existing client's portfolio that you've worked with for at least 5 years. That'll give you a great idea of what the holdings look like and what the performance has been over the last 5 years. So great question to ask. Again, kind of follow our series. We're going to put together, 8, 9, 10 or so of these. So we've got lots of good feedback on them. And so we're going to continue it. We thought we were going to stop it a couple of weeks ago, but we've got lots of good feedback, so we're going to continue it. So anyway, check in next week. We're going to have another edition of questions that you should be asking your advisor. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Hi, thank you so much for watching our blog series. We really appreciate it. If you like the content that we're producing, just make sure you give us a big old thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to our channel, make sure you get the weekly blog. Just hit the subscribe button below. And if you like the content, make sure you share it. We would greatly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.